Today we're going to talk about painting the female face. In this case, it's a young woman, and I used gouache, and I used gouache as watercolor, and of course I sketched it with a pencil. So I want to show you how I painted this, but more importantly, I want to talk about portraiture in general, because I've done more than my share of portraits. This is not a portrait. This is not a specific person. This is like a lot of the things I do. I just kind of grab from my knowledge of, like when I do a landscape, I know that there's a sky and there are trees and there is sometimes water and sunlight and dappled sunlight and trees that are backlit and trees that are sidelit. And with the human face, I know that there are shadows, and I know that there is jewelry or a hat, clothing in general. I know that there is hair that is front lit, that is backlit. I know that there are reflections on the nose and the chin and around the eyes and the eyelashes and the eyelids. And I know that all of the different peoples from around the world all have different things that are necessary to understand in order to paint the portrait. Okay? Is that enough information to tell you why I call it the torture of the portraiture? It is truly torturous, but when you can pull it off, it's very rewarding, especially for the people you paint it for. Now that's another thing I want to make sure I mention. Usually when you do a portrait, it's for a specific person or a specific family, or maybe it's about a specific person. Like let's say you are invited to, I had one, I'll tell you one, there's a school here in our community called Hamlet Bowen Junior Elementary School. And Hamlet Bowen Jr. died in Vietnam, and they were building the school and they wanted a portrait of Hamlet Bowen. So I did a portrait of him based on a photograph that the father had provided for me. Yes, there was the torture of the portraiture, because the pressure to capture the likeness and make sure nothing looks wonky and nothing looks wrong. Make sure it looks like the person. I will tell you, there is torture in that. I've done many portraits of people in my own family and people in my own circle of friends. And I will say that when you do people in your own family and your own circle of friends, you are very familiar with how they look. So you know almost right away if you've captured the likeness. That's something you know right away. If you're painting a stranger, somebody you don't know, somebody you've not become familiar with in an intimate way, you know what I mean, where you see them a lot, somebody brand new, it's a challenge, you know, and you really have to sketch a lot. When I used to do sketches at the resorts by the theme parks here in Florida, I would always tell people that this sketch is what I would do first before I ever did any painted portrait, because so many things could be wrong, so many things could be not quite capturing the likeness. I can't tell you how many times I've come 95% close, but not 100. And in that little 5% difference, the family, like I might think it looks like the person, okay? The family might say, "Oh my gosh, he looks like his cousin Jim," or she looks like her younger self. And if you've done portraits, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I've had so many requests to show how I would do a face with gouache or with watercolor. So I chose to do a female face with kind of a just a plain look. When Robin and I do children's books, I might paint a picture like this if there was like, usually in children's books there are children, and but once in a while there's an adult, like a teacher or a parent or something in the story. And well, a good example is a book I illustrated for the pastor and his wife, Jeffrey Shanks and Annette Shanks. They wrote a book about Grandma's music box. And in Grandma's music box, it's a story, and there are adults in the story. And let me see if I can show you some of those pictures in the B-roll here. So, yeah, there's some of the pictures from Grandma's music box. And although they weren't portraits, I did try to capture the likeness of some of the people in their family, so that when they read the book, they can say, "Oh my gosh, that looks like you," that kind of thing. Today's video that you're going to watch in just a minute is about this picture. It's not an actual lady. There is no likeness I was trying to capture. I was just my knowledge of nose, eyes, mouth, hair, and lips. And of course I'm a man, so I guess I'm attracted to ladies. So I like painting ladies. But I've painted many men. Don't let what I just said make you think. I've painted my son, I've painted my father, I've painted a man who played taps at veterans cemeteries, and I've painted the different races. I've painted black people and white people and Asian people and old people and young people, children, babies, dogs. Dogs are hard because you can't sit with a dog. Dogs move too much. Even little children, they move too much. You have to get a photograph. I do. Maybe you don't, but I do. It's a good study, though, if you want to study how to paint human beings. And one more thing before I go to the video is, if you do want to paint people, just sketch them, just all the time. Make that your obsession. Paint faces, draw faces, and draw clothing. There's I don't know why painting nudes seems to be throughout the world of art a lot. I've never had anybody ask me. Well, no, I take that back. I have had a couple of people ask me to paint a nude, but it's not very common. But mostly what looks good, I think, is, I don't know. I mean, you can put a man in a tuxedo and there's not much to it, but you put a lady in a flowing gown, yeah, the folds in the gown, the way the way you can make it look like it's windy, just by a flowing gown. That's I just like illustrating, maybe more than portraiture. All right, enough of that. Let me show you how I painted this lady right now. The lady with the hat. Okay, let's sketch and paint a human face. A human face. Let's start off with the hairline, not the top of the head, just the hairline. And then we'll bring it down and around. Just large areas. Let's see, right about there. Just go around here. There's the chin. I have my trusty eraser here in case I make something I don't like. Because this isn't the likeness of some individual, specific person, I'm not worried about making too many mistakes. But still. Alright, so they're going to have her hair come around like this. And she'll have a hat. There's the hat. There we go. So that's her hair right there. Will be the side of her face over here. This hair coming down. Just trying to sketch a real loose rendering. And her neck. And her far shoulder. Her ears here. And then the back of her hair. Hat to go all the way around to the back of her hair. And the hair coming out there. So we have a rough sketch of how she's going to look here. And then her brow is right about there. Nose is right here. I think so. Her eyes right here. Rough sketching it here. Her bottom lip. Let's make sure we get this eye here. And like the top of her bottom lip. And then the top lip. Make sure we got her chin kind of round right there. Make sure this is the fulcrum of her nose. Let's try to get this shadow here. Make sure the eyes got in the same spot here. Let's give her some more hair here. Give her a piece of jewelry here. Earring. Okay. And a little hint of the garments that she's wearing. Alright, now let's start adding some color to it. See what we like. See how much of this we like. Let's take, we've got some orange on here. And I'm going to mix it with white, maybe a little bit of red. So we can get a color going here on her. And we will, of course, adjust the color. So right now I'm doing it kind of like a watercolor so that I can keep it very thin, very loose. Keeping it almost like a orangish pink. I'm using gouache, so that makes it that's not so scary when I use gouache, because gouache will is paint over, you can paint over it, so I'm not so worried about it. Put some darker, as long as the brush has darker on it, might as well add some dark where the dark is going to be later on. Maybe on that side of her. Oh, keep that dark. Of course, right here there's some dark. keep working it. Just keep working it. Now let's get some of this. I think I need. See what other colors I have here. On these dried colors. Let's get some of this for her hat. Come back. We can always come back to it. Okay, do that to her garment also. There we go. Some of the dark in for her hair. Again, it's all the first layer, just to get it started so we have something to work from. I'm not afraid to get it wet right now. It's just, as long as it doesn't bleed into the other parts, you know. That's kind of the one thing I'm thinking that this dried paint I'm using is black. It probably shouldn't be black, but that's what it is. Okay, now let's let that dry. Let's go ahead and take a larger brush. Get some of these dark browns and oranges into here for the background. is my study in the face for entry number 32 of my journal. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.